and a little late.
We are live.
What's going on?
So, dude, I'm just hanging out. I'm excited for week 2. I want to put week 1 in the review mirror. Not for fantasy purposes, but for Washington football team purposes.
Mark wants to do it for fantasy purposes, but we'll leave that separate.
I mean, outside of our league, I had a great week. I'm
Nice.
content. Yeah. Which when Josh Allen and Matt Ryan lay up a combined 17 points, you lose.
Hey, how'd you guys do in Fishbowl?
I won this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it came down to the wire for me. Did you see what was happening with my team? I was putting it in the group chat, man. So I go into this matchup. I'm 20 points down, right? And I had Marquise Brown and Carlson, the kicker for Oakland. I'm sorry, for Las Vegas. And he had Henry Ruggs. So as we're playing this matchup, it's starting to get close. And I'm like, damn, it's like the third quarter. I might actually have a shot at this. And then Marquise Brown gets a big one. And I was like, holy shit, I actually have a shot at this. I'm within a few points. And then we ended up going over and I'm winning. And then he gets catch from Henry Ruggs and he's winning. And then I get a field goal and I'm winning. And then Henry Ruggs had that drive where he had 2 catches or something like that. Or maybe it's just 1 catch, but either way, he got up on me. And then to close out the game, was it Marquise Brown? I think or maybe it was Carlson. Yeah, Carlson might have had a kick or something like that. But either way, it was back and forth, where he's going up, I'm going up. Dude, it was nerve-wracking, man. It was nerve-wracking.
I lost Judy, though. Ryan, I know you lost Judy, too, so.
I lost Judy in multiple leagues, and I lost in Scott Fishbowl because Aaron Rodgers got me negative 10 points. So tough to come back from that.
Negative 10. Nice.
Plus, I had Ronald Jones, so.
Well, that scoring is insane. So that's tough, man. I can't get, you can't get mad at that.
No, it's tough. As soon as I saw the Aaron Rodgers game, it's I'm not even checking till I checked today for the first time because I know I lost.
Yeah, I didn't have to. After seeing the Bills game, I was like, I'm good. Wrap it up.
All right. Well, let's kick it off here and get talking some Washington football. So welcome everyone to another edition of Washington Intervention. I'm your host, Ryan. You could find me over on Twitter at WhatGibbsFF. We also have our other co-hosts, Mark Crouchick and Chase Vernon, with us as well. Talking about a tough week coming out of. I mean, I'm still feeling it from the loss to the Chargers. I feel like the losses take me a couple of days. Glad we're back on Thursday night, and I'm going to be in a terrible mood if we can't beat the Giants on Thursday night. I have talked so much shit to Giants fans for the last 5 months that we cannot lose that game. I'm just going in a hole if we lose that game. Not looking forward to that, but if hopefully we don't have to have a repeat of this week. But anyway, we had pipes bursting over at FedEx Field, which is a great analogy as to how things went down on Sunday. I don't know if you guys saw that, but there was literally shit pouring from the ceiling from the pipes onto fans at FedEx Field.
No, I missed that. That's crazy.
Supposedly it was rainwater.
Oh, supposedly it was rainwater. Well, metaphorically, we'll pretend it was shit because it was a brutal game.
Jason Wright and Tanya Snyder did walk them. Those people in that section did end up in suites, so they were taken care of for sure.
Oh, nice.
So
did they get a shower? Or?
I did see that, but yeah, it was definitely a mess. That is FedEx Field. We have 7 more seasons, so we'll see. It was nice to be back. That's for darn sure. It was great to be there.
So how was the atmosphere, Mark?
It was weird. It was nice. There were definitely Charger fans for every year. Every time I go down there for the last couple of years, you can always go. All right, today is going to be the day where I see the most Panther fans ever, and today is the day where I'm going to, whatever team it is, you're going to see a lot. I knew going in we'd see a good amount of Charger fans. There were a good amount of Charger fans, especially on the away side, and on the away side in the upper deck. trying to get a gauge, I'd probably say realistically there was like 20% Charger fans. Honestly, there was, because so many were on the lower level and on the upper deck. It was great they were in it. The fans were absolutely in the game. There were moments when they were obviously sucked out. It was nice. It was nice to hear the hail let's go Redskins chant. I know we're changing over, but it was
The nostalgia.
it was awesome. They tried extremely hard to play music immediately after any scoring took place. Now, they always used to play Hail to the Redskins, obviously, after touchdowns. They also played it after field goals. So nobody really cared after the field goals. But once the first field goal went in, it was like music instantly. It was just like to try and throw someone's rhythm off. It was just, it was funny. The touchdown did come. Where I was, I couldn't hear to join in on the Hail to the Redskins chant. I know I saw a video where it actually was playing, where people were singing on their own, but they did a very nice job of playing music to try and kill it throughout the stadium. So it was nice to be back. It was tough to lose, but it was definitely a good environment.
I saw some Washington on Washington fighting over on Twitter.
I think that had to do with someone saying good Fitz stinks. Heineke's better. There was a lot of that. That's the only thing I could think of someone fighting about is we want Fitz and someone wanted Heineke. That could only be the only reason to fight about. Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, that's good little segue into there, because I wanted to get everyone's opinion here on the injury to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously, not the way we want it to start. You'd never want to start week one with your starting quarterback going down. So, Mark, I'm gonna kick it over to you to start. As a fan, you kind of have to be all in, right? Regardless of what you think about the guy and your confidence in him. But are you confident in Taylor Heineke? Do you feel like our season's over already with Fitzpatrick down and out, or do you feel like Heineke can actually be a quarterback that can win some games for us and keep us in it if Fitzpatrick is able to get back?
I think he can win some games. He's the most interesting person Washington's seen in a long time. When he came into the game, I've never heard the stadium erupt like that, probably since RG3. And it was wild, because Fitz is walking to the locker room and Heineke's coming in the game and the stadium's going nuts. And I'm like, this feels dirty.
It kind of is messed up, man. Fitz is our starting
weird.
quarterback. We got a lot invested in him, and I mean, to be honest with you, better system fit for I think what we want to do on offense. But
he just is like a lightning bolt when he comes in, and he came out. You can tell he was definitely nervous. He had the couple errant passes on the first drive, but on the second drive, he came in and was just like, "Who the heck is this guy?"
Dude, he also had that shovel pass that was like unbelievable.
He's a baller. He's an absolute baller. Am I confident that we're gonna make the playoffs? No. Do I think it's going to be exciting and fun to watch? Yes. That's as confident as I am. If he's the quarterback when we go through that gauntlet part of the schedule with the Chiefs and everybody, you can't be confident because he's got to score 30 points to win. But other than that, I think it'll be fun. I think Washington as a whole will have fun. Other than that, I'm not too confident. No. I'm sorry.
So
Chase may think otherwise.
So Chase, what are you thinking on Heineke?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, so Heineke's interesting. Like, he offers a little bit of a different aspect than Fitzpatrick, but it's almost like the same aspect. Obviously, not a big fan of his arm. I think it's very limited as to what he can do compared to Fitzpatrick being able to launch downfield. He
totally
also doesn't offer the same upside with his intelligence and his football knowledge is what Fitzpatrick saw. So I'm a little bit more hesitant, I think, with Heineke in. However, that being said, man, he went to school right up the street from us. I'm rooting for the guy big time, and I think that he can actually perform. I'm actually trying to look. Yeah, he had one drop with only 8.1 yards per attempt. That's a little bit disappointing. I want to see that the yards per attempt a little bit up there with this type of offense. If it was a West Coast offense, I'd be fine with it. However, it's not. And seeing a 73.3 completion percentage in this offense, that's great. But the yards per attempt should be way, way higher up there.
What were his yards per attempt? Do you have that in front of you by any chance?
Yeah, your yards per attempt are 8.1. So,
okay.
It's not bad. It's pretty good, actually. I just want to see more, from an offense like this. I think that, it's going to have ramifications throughout the rest of the rest of the games and the rest of the team that's actually going to harm it. So with that being said, just keep in mind, Ryan Fitzpatrick yards per attempt they were brutal. Like they were really, really bad. However, let's see. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good from Fitzpatrick prior to that either. So I think that
he did take a couple shots though, Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he can. I want to see more from the quarterback. I saw either guy. Now, although I'm sitting there saying, hey, like these guys are, Taylor Heinicke's not Ryan Fitzpatrick and blah 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 blah. Taylor Heinicke does offer a little bit more of a rushing upside that I think we can utilize, and I think could allow Gibson to be a little bit more efficient. I'm nervous about the downward spiraling effects that could occur from Fitzpatrick being out and us not being able to run the same offense where it comes to downfield targets and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think, one of our downfield targets in Curtis Samuel has been out, and I think it will continue to be out at least for the foreseeable future, which is frustrating. So I think you already lost a little bit of that element to begin with before Fitzpatrick went out. So I think you almost kind of have to already start revamping the offense a little bit there, unfortunately. And, I think, Chase, I think it was you who had mentioned the risk of kind of giving Antonio Gibson too much of a workload. Do you kind of see them leaning on him? Are they going to lean on him too much now, you think, now that Fitzpatrick's out and with Samuel injured?
I'm really, really nervous about this, to be honest. Like, I'm very, very nervous about this because they were just running him in the back of the line over and over again. It was very, it was frustrating to watch. Like, why are you running your bell cow back that you want to be a bell cow, but why are you calling the same exact plays and just running him up the middle in his second year in the league, coming off of an injury where your starting quarterback is hurt halfway through the game? Like, I was like, what are they doing? Like what are you trying to accomplish by doing this? Like, bounce him outside, give him an opportunity to make plays, and stop calling the same damn run play over and over and over again, or different variations of the same run play, essentially. But it's like, man, like, you were going to bust this guy up. I know he's 230 pounds, right? He's a big boy, but he's not a bruiser. He actually has a lot of speed. He has a lot of agility, and he is able to bounce it outside. We saw it last year. And to sit there and call these plays where he's running up the middle just didn't make much sense to me, outside of, trying to run down the clock and keep this game as close as possible, which, by the way, we've seen from, Ron Rivera's offenses before. I should say Scott Turner's offense to an extent, though he wasn't calling the plays up until, last year. Either way, like, it just didn't make sense. Like, I would have rather Gina McKissick or getting, extra snaps and seeing, Antonio Gibson just run into the back of the line over and over and over again. I understand that's kind of where they want to go with this, but there was no space, and you're going to get this guy killed, and it's going to hurt our chances for later on the season. This is an 18 or 17 game season, 18 weeks. Like, dude, don't do this. Don't do it.
I think you're going to start to see a little bit more Jarrett Patterson in the mix. He actually, I felt like, was pretty impressive. Doesn't look like a guy that was an undrafted rookie free agent, right? Like, I'm impressive that I've seen from Jarrett Patterson. I feel like we do need to get him a little bit more involved. And I do think McKissick was a really big weapon for us last year. And I think we probably need to implement that a little bit more if we're going to have no Samuel and no Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think McKissick's skill set lends better to a Taylor Heinicke playing quarterback, who you talked about that mobility, but you also talk about the ability for him to extend plays. He has that it factor where he goes off script and makes things happen. We saw that multiple times this last week. We saw that almost the entire game against Tampa Bay, and even in his spot play in the regular season prior to that. But Heinicke, I feel like, can keep us in games, but I do think it's that less of a structured offense. And we had talked about that in prior weeks than if you have a Ryan Fitzpatrick who's a little bit more of a cerebral, coaches like that kind of that quarterback. He's a little bit more of an off script guy. So I think you're going to have a little bit of change in what you see there from week to week from us. But I want to ask one question back to you again, Chase. I know everyone on Twitter really, really likes to focus in on how we messed up on the quarterback draft in 2020, right? Like, hey, we should have taken a quarterback over Chase Young. Justin Herbert ended up becoming the stud. We got to see it on display. I don't buy into that, first off, because I think every single person in the fan base should be ecstatic to have Chase Young. I know we're going to probably talk about him a little bit because he wasn't as impactful as we would have hoped on Sunday. But leaving 2020 out of it, are we waiting too long to take a quarterback? Is that going to make us desperate in 2022? Should we have actually looked last year to make a move, get someone like a Mac Jones or who was probably within the range of being able to trade up and not give up too many assets? Are we waiting too long on a quarterback?
No, because Mac Jones needed an offensive line. And as we saw this past week, this offensive line, wasn't too hot. So, Mac Jones needs offensive line. He needs, a couple big time playmakers who can actually create separation, not get thrown open. He's very accurate, but as a rookie quarterback, this was not the right system to throw him in. Mac Jones would be absolutely demolished in this offense. And honestly, I'm fine with not taking him now. I would have liked to take him, a quarterback maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. But we still need to build this offensive line. And up until we build this offensive line up, I don't want any rookie quarterback behind this offensive line, unless we're talking about like maybe Lamar Jackson. But no, I mean, even Lamar Jackson has a great offensive line. So, it's something as to where this offense is built to put a veteran back here, even though they could still end up getting hurt, behind just a subpar trash offensive line. And the thing was, we talked about this, right? We brought it up multiple times in the offseason, how this offensive line is not is not built to sustain it. It looked a lot better than it was on paper because of our last, 8 matchups that we played. And we talked about how we didn't have a single team that was, top, I think it was even top 20, maybe top 15 in pressure rates or sack rates, either one. We didn't play any of those teams. There was one team, Pittsburgh, who just lost Bud Dupree the week before that.
Yep.
So there's one team that we faced. This offensive line is not good. And, it's something that I harped on, and I kind of backed off a little bit because we kind of fanboyed a little bit about our offensive line and how it could be good. It's not a good offensive line. And moving forward, there has to be something here that makes, Rivera and the rest of this coaching staff go out and grab some studs. I mean, we are having, 5th round, 6th round undrafted players starting on our offensive line. And that should never happen. And there's a chance that we lose Sheriff. So
there's a good chance we lose Sheriff, I feel like.
What are we going to do? What are we waiting for? Why are we not building this offensive line? Because you want to have a great defense? That's great. It's an offensive league. Offensive league.
I know we want to kill Cosme after last week, and rightfully so. He had a tough game, and it was his first game, and he did have to go against Bosa. In the run, I love Cosme. We knew the one area where he was going to have problems, and that was against the pass, and he just happened to go against Bosa this week. So, yes, he struggled, but at the same point in time, he's one person I don't think we can kill as much as I would go after Leno. I think he struggled.
No, we lost a quarterback because of him.
Yeah, we did struggle. But the penalties on the offensive line, Sheriff had two penalties. You can't do that in the close games. There's so much that you can beat on. But I was listening to Kevin Sheehan this morning, and yesterday I saw the comment about Herbert and Chase Young, and I'm like, Chase Young, I take him. Just because he's transformed kind of everything in Washington.
He's been a big culture change
exactly.
for us. He is the leader of this team on the field.
Kevin Sheehan said it this morning. He goes, you take the quarterback. It's not even a question, because the quarterback is the most important position on the field. And if you look at the way that Washington's been the last couple of years and the amount of quarterbacks that they've gone through the years, quarterback is number one. So if you were to do it all over again, yeah, you take Herbert in a second. And can you really argue him after the performance that Herbert had against Chase Young the other day?
So my issue is a couple-fold. One, there's no point in going back and looking, right? You can't change the past. There's no point in even worrying about it. Herbert could have come over to us and torn his ACL in the preseason. Like anything could have happened. What happened is happening now is not what would have happened had we made the draft pick. So I don't like to always worry about that. It's a little like butterfly effect, right? Like we didn't make that decision. Everything else has been different since then, right? I think the other big thing is like Justin Herbert wasn't necessarily the
guy that would have been
guy that
gone.
we would have probably drafted at that point, right? Like Herbert wasn't a slam dunk prospect at that time, and I think that's one of the things that I look at. Like I struggled watching him at the Senior Bowl, right? He was inaccurate on like throws to the outside of the field, and it wasn't like he was like a home run. Like you got to have Justin Herbert, right? If it was this year's draft and it was someone like a Trey Lance or someone that I felt like more comfortable with coming out, I would have said, yeah, like I would probably prefer the quarterback in that instance. But I wasn't even convinced that Herbert was going to be a first round grade at that point. So it's but there were inconsistencies in his game and his accuracy that I thought caused some areas for concern. So I think we just, for me, I feel like you can't look back, you can't focus on the past, and especially when like, you have a guy like Chase Young that's totally transformed this culture. It's totally, a moot point to me.
Yeah, Catherine brought it up in the chat. She's talking about looking forward. So I don't know if that was applied to, but now I think it's something as to where like we could actually see big things out of Chase Young in this defense. I just wish that we would have built this offensive line and so that we were able to throw a rookie quarterback behind it eventually. So
outside of our tackles, though, interior wise, you have to agree that that's solid.
Interior is fine, but the tackle is a piece that, like, we saw what happened, right? Like, you're gonna invest in a rookie quarterback and have him get destroyed, like Ryan Fitzpatrick did, right? I mean, other than him being on a water slide leading up to the incident. Did we ever find out if that's true? By the way, there was that audio of like,
you're not gonna hear that.
No.
Washington is throwing that under the rug as hard as they can. That's the last thing they need right now is a water slide incident.
The sad thing is, it's probably true. Like, I can totally picture that. Can you picture Fitzpatrick at a water park with his like 7 kids and just
he wasn't moving well. He wasn't moving well Sunday, so like it totally makes sense. He wasn't able to get outside the pocket and run like he normally is able to. So I know he's 38. I know he's older, but he still was not the Fitz that can get around. So maybe it happened. Who knows? You're not going to hear it, though.
We have a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to hop around too much. I don't think this is on the show sheet just because, we're so hyper-focused on, the offense and the defense. But what about our special teams?
Absolutely not. Or I thought return game was an absolute strength this weekend. DeAndre Carter, I thought, was a blessing from what we've had in the last couple of years. He had a 31-yard kick return. He had 2 punt returns for 22 yards. I thought he was great. The penalties are unnecessary. Trey Apke going off sides on that fourth down.
I was just going to talk about. And that was a big one, man. That was a big field position changer, right? And that made the decision. That was the one with like 6:52 left in the game, down 4 on the Chargers 40 with all of our timeouts, and it's like, do you go for it, and do you try to put up the points? We're only down 4 at that point, right? Or do you play the field position game? And it would have made sense if we pinned them inside the 10, but then when you have Apke go off sides and you end up giving them pretty good field position, it was like a 17-yard swing from where we would have been versus had we gone for it. So.
The Apke penalty, the decision was already made to punt, so I can't say that was a deciding factor. But I mean, Hopkins made 3 field goals this week. Yes, he missed a 50-yarder or
51-yarder.
Yeah. Okay, Hopkins doesn't make those kicks. He made the 48-yarder. He made the 2 easy kicks. So I look at special teams as a positive this week compared to what it's been.
DeAndre Carter was a bright spot. Go ahead, Chase. I think you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, all right, so our special teams, like, it wasn't great, but we're getting above average from what we expect to get from this unit. And honestly, like, I don't think that that's good. Like, for us to sit there and say like, oh, he had 2 punt returns for 22 yards, and oh, he didn't miss a big kick. Like we're talking about this Super Bowl-esque or Super Bowl like contending team essentially on defense, arguably, because we're going to talk about that here in a second. Meanwhile, an offense that has all these weapons, and then a special teams were like, oh, we did good there. Good job, guys. Like, you guys get a trophy.
What's the weak spot?
We'll take you out for ice cream. I honestly just feel like we could be upgraded all the way across it. I mean, I don't want DeAndre Carter being our kick returner. Like, I want a dominant guy back there who can actually return kicks. And, maybe we don't have him on the roster, but that's something that I think we need to explore in the future. I mean, we've always had guys like, Banks and like Brian Mitchell and like other aspects up in
Banks.
I love
Brian
Banks,
Mitchell.
man.
Yes,
I wanted
it's
to
like as good as it gets.
No, but I mean, up until about 10 years ago or so, right, is when we stopped seeing a dominance on special teams that I thought we always had. I mean, our punters were always on point. Like coffin kicks were a thing that was created by what's his name? I mean, it wasn't really, but we got very, very good with our special teams. I think because our, our offense and our defense was so bad that we had to be good at special teams. But, going back and looking at it, I'd rather see some significant upgrades to these positions versus going with guys that are safe. And I feel like Ron Rivera is almost playing it right now with safe options, like running the ball as much as he did, like, having safe guys with, with Hopkins and our DeAndre Carter. It's like, there's very little upside. And obviously he wants our defense to win. But after our defense played this way, I don't know if our defense is capable of winning, up against some of these more dominant offenses in an offensive league.
And I'm going to take us down a path here because one of the reasons I felt we should have gone for it on that 4th and 4 situation was our defense gave up 14 of 19 third downs for a 73.9% conversion rate for the Chargers. But along with that, we gave up 9 straight third down conversions from the third quarter throughout the fourth quarter. We didn't stop them once at that point. So they went on a string of 9 straight third down conversions starting at the back end of the third quarter through the fourth quarter. We clearly couldn't stop that offense. We had an opportunity to put points on the board and take the lead. It was a frustrating turn of events, I think, that kind of took away momentum, and it kind of started to say, okay, is Riverboat Ron becoming a little bit conservative as he progresses in his coaching career? But just want to go back to that stat though, because 14 of 19 third downs, like how bad is that? That is the most third down conversions the team's given up in franchise history. And we're not just talking about like, hey, this is the Washington football team franchise history of the last year plus, right, since the name change. Just going back to the 1930s, right? So that is historically terrible.
The 19th was a kneel down, so 14 of 18. Make it even worse.
Yeah,
man,
which is even worse.
Really?
He's not wrong though, right? The third down, it was the last one was, and that was actually the one that stopped that consecutive 9 in a row streak. It was a kneel down. He's absolutely right. So I mean, basically 14 of 18.
It's very easy to say that they should have tried to go for it. They had him 3rd and 16 on the next drive. Yes, they got it in one of the worst defensive play calls I've ever seen. And you want to talk like Rivera's mentioned missed assignments. And obviously Bostic was completely out of position on that play. But that's a total collapse. And that play call shouldn't have been there. It was their 80th play. What was it? 80th play on defense at that point? Something along those lines. 70 something at that point because they had the whole drive to go still. But everything was it really was a bad game. The score was 20-16. It was an awful game when you look at certain things. Defensively, offensively, it really was just coaching-wise was awful.
So let's talk about that defense real quick. I don't mean to cut you off there, but I do want to hit on something you talked about before the show started because it was very frustrating to watch. And when you do have a quarterback that's getting the ball out of their hands very quickly, like a Justin Herbert, and you have talented receivers that are pretty good after the catch and phenomenal route runners and guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and a bunch of guys that they have there, or even like Austin Eckler in the backfield, right? Like we were giving those 8-10 yard cushions pretty frequently, and we are built to be a press coverage up in your face defensive unit, right? That's why we brought in guys like William Jackson to be able to play that up on the line, press coverage, we were giving them cushion and they were eating that cushion alive, right? And just wanted to kind of get your opinion, Mark. I know we talked about that before the show. Get your feedback there.
I'm not saying that you have to do it every single play, but why not show and mix and just go back and forth just to take the quarterback off his game, or try to at least a little bit. I know they played man. I know they played zone. I know, they did mixing back and forth, but show something else. You know what I mean? Give your defensive line a chance to at least have 3 seconds to go get the quarterback.
It reminded me of Greg Mineski, because that what used to be my big thing with him is like he would always give soft coverage and he'd give those big gaps. And yes, we didn't get beat deep all the time and we were bend don't break, but like at some point you can't give up those short yardage passes. And I think we saw that pretty frequently throughout the game, even though we also got beat on plays like you said, like third and 16.
I mean, it was very bend don't break. They obviously gave the touchdown up on the first drive, but they did well in the red zone technically, but
the Gibson fumble killed us.
They shouldn't They shouldn't have to be like that. They shouldn't have to play defense like that. They should be able to get off the field, and it was reminiscent of Tampa Bay last year in the playoffs. That was exactly the way it felt the whole time.
It did. I do want to bring up real quick that a lot of these third down conversions went to a combination of Jared Cook and Keenan Allen. But they were pretty much attacking either the middle of the field or they were attacking Benjamin St. Judice on the outside. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at the coverage right now, and Judice gave up so many plays on the outside, especially on third down when they had guys like Mike, obviously who's a experienced veteran. They even lined up Jared Cook up against Benjamin St. Judice on the outside. And, we thought coming into the season that St. Judice would be that guy that could be the more physical, that had the length, that could do that. But, I mean, he struggled big time. And I was a little bit frustrated when we talk about how, the press coverages and everything like that. But I think we need to throw in there how they were afraid to double cover because they didn't want to get beat deep because we don't have a real free safety. Because we didn't go out and we didn't sign Malik Hooker. And I'm still pissed about that.
Malik Hooker was a no-show the other night. I watched him specifically for Dallas. He was gone. So no going there.
No, but I think like even the touchdown that St. Just had given up to Mike Williams, I feel like he had pretty tight coverage on that too. It was just a really, really well thrown ball. And, we're going to take our lumps. And I think that's the thing that's going to happen with this team is we're trying to build. Rivera's learning from his past mistakes. He's not building a team with old players, right? He wants to bring in youth and build around that youth. We're going to take our growing pains. We're going to take our growing pains with Sam Cosme. We're going to take our growing pains with Benjamin St. Just. We're going to take our growing pains with Jamin Davis, right? That's going to be part of the problem of playing some of these younger players. Hopefully, as we get deeper into the season and we're talking, back half, we're a little bit more brought along, and we did rely on young players last year like Cameron Curl, but he wasn't thrown into that role on week 1, right, last year. So, it's going to take a little bit of time, and I just hope we don't come out with multiple strings of losses and get to down a bad path to start the season.
To defend St. Just, if you look at Kendall or Mr. Fuller, he got lit up a lot.
Kendall Fuller did get lit up.
Yep. A lot. I think
he did, especially in the middle of the field. It was bad.
It was bad.
But I mean, he allowed 6 or 5 receptions on 6 targets overall from when I went back and watched the game film. So, and they were decent like depth targets where Fuller should have been on that. He should have jumped the route because the safety should have been there over top. But obviously, this whole team has troubles trusting the safety play, and I think that's going to really haunt us throughout the entire year. Meanwhile, I just realized how busy both Holcomb and John Bostic were.
Yeah.
They were busy, man. 19 combined tackles between assisted ones and solo tackles. That is way too much for a dominant front seven like we have. There is no reason they should be getting that many tackles. And even if it is up against, guys that are coming across the middle like Keenan Allen, where they end up in coverage against it, they need to get in front of them. Like this was ridiculous that they allowed that, or that they got worked that much. I don't see it. I don't understand it. I don't know. It just didn't show up on the film when I watched it. So it kind of like, I don't know, it just made it past it.
So we talk about the dominance of the defensive line. What did you guys think about the defensive line rotation there? Because there were multiple third downs and goal line plays where you're looking and you got Montez Sweat and Chase Young on the sidelines, and I'm just thinking, like, in key high leverage situations, you want your best players on the field. Did you have an issue with that?
I did, until I realized how many actual plays Chase Young played.
Yep.
We had 81 defensive plays the whole game. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Chase
They
Young
were just converting over and over again. We were on the field the entire damn game.
Chase Young played 70 plays. Blows your mind when you like put it in that perspective.
It does, but don't you want him in goal line? Can't you remember back to like the Cincinnati Bengals game and the big plays he makes? Like, sit him in the lower leverage situations. Don't sit him when we're sitting on the goal line or we have a high leverage third down and you got, guys like James Smith-Williams like playing in really pivotal spots and making mistakes and going off sides, right? That's where I started to get frustrated, is pick your spots to give those guys rests. But and that's another frustrating thing, is like, if you are going to give guys like Montez Sweat and Chase Young a rest, this is where guys like Justin Houston would have been a really nice veteran signing to bring in. And you saw him, make a couple big plays last night for Baltimore. Like, you need those depth guys that are going to come in and be that reliable asset for you. And sometimes I feel like we're going a little bit too much on the youth side.
Or just re-sign Ryan Kerrigan.
Or just re-sign Ryan Kerrigan,
who had 2 hurries and I think a tackle for a loss this week, as a
role-playing rotational guy. Yep.
I do want to say real quick, because I know that we have people in the chat, and I know people are listening, because I actually got like 3 text messages today about it, asking about who Washington and their quarterback is going to be moving forward, whether we actually go after a big name. So we'll answer that towards the tail end of the show after we finish covering the game. But yeah, I just want to make sure that people realize we are getting there. We're getting there.
Chase is definitely going to say Matt Ryan, but
so I'm not saying anything yet.
So let me kick over to you before we go over to that, because I do want to hit on the quarterback one more time. So, but let's wrap up with the defense here. But I'm gonna ask both of you: is there anyone that stood out from a defensive performance perspective for either of you?
I thought Cole Holcomb played well. I thought Cole Holcomb played really well. He was all over the field, and yes, he missed assignments. You go back to the first drive, that play where was it Roundtree or Eckler caught the swing pass on the sideline right on the first drive. That should have been Holcomb all over it, but he clearly missed the assignment. But in terms of a guy being all over the field, I thought Holcomb had a great job, had a great game.
All
right. William Jackson, although he made some mistakes as well, it was encouraging to see, his style of play. I liked it. I wish they would have played more press coverage, obviously, but
the pick was beautiful.
It was, yeah. It was just encouraging. Like, I think that it's going to take time for him to work his way into the system. I really liked his style of play, and it's something that I saw briefly at certain times. But with the Bengals, like, he really didn't have too many opportunities to make plays just because that defensive line was so bad. It was cool to see him from a different perspective and how he could be if we start to see more opportunities for him if this defensive line plays better. I think, Chase Young playing as many snaps as he did was promising. And Montez Sweat, I think, got to the quarterback a handful of times, which I like to see. I wanted to see more sacks. I wanted to see, more pressure put onto these wide receivers, obviously, to allow the defensive ends to get there. Outside of that, I think Cam Sims had a really nice tackle. That might have been special teams.
The good news is hopefully we get to see a little bit more of that pass rush against the Giants, because I think that offensive line is still pretty weak. But we'll see how that goes. But let's move to the quarterbacks, because I do want to answer that question for everyone on here and kind of talk through that. So we're left with Taylor Heinicke, who I think is already been named the starter and the go forward starter to replace Ryan Fitzpatrick. We definitely are going to have Kyle Allen as his backup. The two things that concern me are, we're one game into the season. Taylor Heinicke does have a history of injury and being a little bit brittle. To rely on him to be your number one quarterback does concern me. And now we lack that depth that we had where we had Fitzpatrick, Heinicke, and Allen. When Heinicke's being asked to be your backup, I'm more comfortable with the situation than I am when he's asked to be your starter. Would like to see us bring in somebody. I'm curious what's happened between Ron and Cam Newton, where Newton is not even being brought in at all, or even being discussed or talked about. But that's really the big one to me that I think sticks out. I think at this time of the season, that's probably your only option. You're not going to trade for a Deshaun Watson with all the legal mess that he's got. And you talk about the culture changes that we're trying to make within the organization. But that's the big one for me. I think Newton would be the one guy that you could potentially bring in. Go forward, I think it becomes after this season. To me, I think we go after a rookie quarterback. I think we go all in and get that youth and try to build around. If you look at the way our contracts are set up and who we have upcoming to pay, I think you need to be able to, find that cheap rookie contract to be able to build around at the quarterback position.
If going back to that last comment that was popped up, I 100% want to roll with Heineke and Kyle Allen. I do not want to bring anyone else in. If and when something happens next week to Heineke, I wouldn't mind the ginger from Chicago. Why wouldn't they possibly trade him for cheap? To be honest, that's one guy I'd possibly look into.
Because we saw him start for Dallas and we saw that entire offense implode with
that
the most
offensive
talent.
line was
The offensive line,
atrocious
fine.
last year.
Our offensive line is atrocious this year.
Our offensive line's not great. And look at the weapons he had. He had Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. They have good tight ends. He had Zeke and Pollard. Like, there's
don't
no
have
way
good
Andy
tight
Dalton's going
ends.
to come in here and do anything in this offense.
Nope.
I'm just saying, I would take Andy Dalton before Cam Newton. Cam Newton is not good. Cam Newton has not been good the last 3 years. What's the point in bringing Cam Newton outside of the media?
At least he's an asset to the run game. At least he's the asset to the run game, though.
He's not an asset anymore. He doesn't run with the mindset that he used to run. He runs scared now. When I watched Cam Newton 3 years ago on 4th and 1 come up short, you knew that he was done running the football. He is not the runner that he used to be. I'm sorry.
Chase,
and
what
don't
about you?
even mention Griffin. That stupid tweet he had yesterday. I'm sorry.
Robert Griffin is my number one pick, RG3. I mean, if we're going to have some injured quarterbacks, come play for us, might as well be RG3.
I'll take Ben DiNucci over him.
It's going to start. It's going to start with Heineke. Heineke will play like 2 or 3 games. Then RG3 can come in and play like half. Then we'll have to go to Steven Montez for the other half. After that, we're going to trade for a quarterback who you guys know from the Atlanta Falcons, Felipe Franks. And
Nice.
Oh man, no. I honestly don't think RG3 is the worst option. I know the tweet was, I don't even know if it was said in jest or not, but I don't hate it. I don't think that he played well in the very limited time that he had with Baltimore last year before he got hurt, for like the half that he played. And I don't understand how he keeps wanting to come play football. He literally breaks a bone in halftime, or like in half a game, in multiple different situations. So, but I wouldn't be against RG3, to be honest with you. I think it'd be kind of cool. At least we could have some fun while watching Washington this year instead of just watching them go into the tank if we played Kyle Allen. But
So I'm going to throw in a stat for you real quick though, because this is pretty crazy. Terry McLaurin, 32 games with the Washington football team. He's had 10 quarterback changes since he's been here. So about every 3 games, Terry McLaurin is a new starting quarterback throwing to him. So we talk about the debate on like great receivers and where does Terry McLaurin stack up. That is an atrocious statistic. That is a disturbing, atrocious statistic. And, that is the only thing that gives some of the credence to some of these comments of like, should we have gone with a quarterback? Is we just need some stability at the quarterback position. But
I think this is the most upsetting part about talking to you guys tonight is the fact that, we were really excited having some sort of consistency, knowing that, Fitz can be Fitz, but it's still better than Dwayne Haskins. And here we are going into week 2. Fitz is already injured.
Week 2, man. It's insane.
Hey, if Heineke can stay healthy, I'm on board. But these are the quarterbacks that I would rather have over Kyle Allen. We're going to start it out with a quarterback.
Oh man.
We're going to start it out with, of course, Cam Newton, okay? But then we're going to go to a second-year quarterback in Cole Mcdonald who can run the option play, very similar to how Steven Montez can as well. So, at least we could actually have two people on the same page. And then we also have Jordan Ta'amu who can run the option. I don't know if he can actually throw it all, but he did very well in the XFL and could actually be a quarterback.
I think we actually signed him for a little bit to be on our practice squad.
I think we did too. Was that this year or last year?
He was in the camp for sure. He knows the Scott Turner offense. He's good to go.
Yeah, he's fine. Anthony Gordon makes a lot of sense too because he can run the option. I don't trust Kyle Allen throwing the ball, in other words, and I would much rather have a quarterback who we could literally just run the ball 30, 40 times a game than give it to Kyle Allen to throw interceptions and take hits and take sacks and make bad reads. Kyle Allen, for me, is not a league-winning quarterback, not somebody that we can go to Super Bowl with. And if we're not going to Super Bowl, then why win at all? Like, why win at all when we can end up with a better draft pick and get a good quarterback or an offensive lineman so that when we, actually, let's just go with offensive linemen. So that way when we bring you already know who in, then, he can be protected when we talk about Matt Ryan over there. So, yes, I'd rather, do poorly this season than just waste picks. Like, it was so frustrating last year when we made it to the playoffs just to, lose in the first round, and we lost 10 draft slots because of it. It's like, damn, man, we could have had, Christian Darrisaw at left tackle right now rolling in with Ryan Fitzpatrick instead of Charles Leno. Instead, like, we're stuck over here, with a bad offensive line.
Back out there yet? I like Lucas. Can we put Lucas back out there yet?
Yeah, the amazing thing is we did bring in another Kyle who we just signed to the practice squad with Kyle Shurmur from Vanderbilt. And if you know anything about Kyle Shurmur, he was a below 60% completion percentage for his career at Vanderbilt. So not anything too exciting. As a senior year, he threw for almost 63%, but he was under 60% every other year before that. So, you just look at the quarterback options are not great. And I think it has to be like the focus of the off season is getting our long-term solution at quarterback. And I really hope it's via trade up. And I hope we go for a young quarterback with that rookie contract, like I mentioned, because we have to be able to build around that young, cheap contract with the contracts that we have coming up on defense. If we want the defense to be the strength of this team, we're going to have to pay Terry McLaurin coming up. We're going to have to pay some of the interior defensive linemen. If we want to keep like a Jerron Payne, we're going to have to pay Montez Sweat. So you really look at the structure of this team and how we're built. And I think the only way is to go after that rookie quarterback next year. So I think it's just we roll with Heineke. Let's see if we can get some magic out of him and see if he has that it factor that can bring us to the playoffs. And if not, we're probably drafting high, and then maybe we're not talking about quarterbacks next year.
I do have one that I was going to make an Aaron Rodgers joke just because he sucks and like maybe we can get him cheap. But no, I do have one person who I want to throw out there that I think could actually be a legitimate option. Okay. This kid has a strong. Hill. No, not Taysom Hill. No, we have a player who should be cheap overall. We should be able to get him for a later pick, but he had a very strong arm in college. He's got wheels on him and can scramble when we need him to, but he's not inept to scramble. Like he's actually, I think he has the 8th fastest 40 time amongst active quarterbacks or starting in active quarterbacks right now. Although he doesn't scramble, he still can if he gets into trouble with our offensive line. Drew Lock. I know that's not the sexiest name.
I'm all for it. I love Drew Lock. Let's go.
He fits in the system that we want to run, right? Where he can get the ball downfield because he is a strong arm quarterback and he's actually pretty accurate downfield. Meanwhile, he doesn't mind throwing contested catches, very similar to Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's not a bad name, right?
Mm-mm.
What do you think we can get him for? A 5th rounder? 6th
Can we
rounder?
trade for
7th?
him now? Can we trade for him now?
Like today, I'm down. Like I'm down. And what if he is good? Like what if he's all right and he's just stuck with Denver who can't develop quarterbacks, right?
Would you give up a 3rd rounder for him right now?
No, not. It would have to be 5th or later. I'd prefer like a 7th rounder.
I mean, he was a 2nd round pick last year, so obviously he's not going to go.
No, he was. Dude, this is like his 3rd or 4th year in the league.
No, he was a rookie last year.
Drew Lock.
Ryan.
No, this is his 3rd year.
He
had 1 year.
He was a 2019 draft pick, so he is a 3rd year player, not 4th, but he is a.
I said 3rd or 4th, and I was leaning towards 3rd.
Did he play his rookie year at all?
Yeah. He played. It was before Shurmur rolled into town. And it was him and Simeon that were splitting snaps. Shurmur came in, and I wrote about how they could actually utilize the RPO because of the fact that Shurmur's had a top 10 rushing quarterback every year except for once that he's been an offensive coordinator or a head coach. And the 1 year that he wasn't was with David Garrard, which he still had 2 years with him where he was a top 10 rushing quarterback. And if you guys remember, David Garrard was slow as shit. So to have that ability to run the RPO and he likes to move his guys on bootlegs actually and get them out of the pocket. So I always thought that he would succeed. And it turns out that he didn't succeed. And yeah, I think that he could still be a good quarterback, not great, but at least to hold us over for 1 year, maybe to make a run. And if he is good, then we can sign him to a longer contract as we draft offensive linemen, next year. You never know.
So I'm going back.
Ryan's like, I'm done with this.
I'm taking a look here, and actually, games started. You guys are gonna forget about this. In 2019, his rookie season, Joe Flacco started 8 games for the Denver
before
Broncos.
He hurt his back.
Yep. So that's why he was slow to start. He only had 5 starts his rookie season. And then last year he was
Simeon
showing
some snaps too, or is that somebody else?
That was Brandon Allen that year.
Oh, that's what it was.
Simeon was last year when it was just the disaster of like Brett Rippon and the
Drew Lock got hurt
Hinton,
last year.
the wide receiver converted to quarterback for for that season. That was
for the COVID issue.
For the COVID issue, it was bad. But no, all joking aside, like I'm not even gonna say
it. Say it.
I'm not even gonna say it.
Say it.
I would love for us to get Taysom Hill to finish off this season.
Okay, you didn't have to say that.
I honestly think there's a lot of potential there. I think he's an accurate passer. I think you're looking at a guy who's over 70% completion percentage, and I think he's a huge asset in the run game, which is something that I can't oversell of how important that is when you're a team that doesn't have that top end quarterback and has a strong run game with Antonio Gibson and good options like JD McKissick, who he can use in kind of a similar Kamara situation where he's that dump off option, or you got guys like Jarrett Patterson who shows promise from a rotational perspective. So I feel like that would be, with the way our defense is built, the way our offense is structured, that would be the best of the options, but obviously that's not going to happen. I don't think the Saints would ever trade Taysom Hill right now just because they love him. But
I'd like this to close out the show. I do. I like it. I don't know if you guys are ready for it.
Go ahead.
All right. Predictions for the season with Ryan Fitzpatrick going out. With Fitz in, I think I had us at 11-6, I believe. Or maybe it was 12-5. No, it was 11-6. I think that will end up going 1-16. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to mess with Mark on that one. No, I think that it's not going to see that big of a drop off. I wasn't a big fan of Fitzpatrick anyways. I thought he was good, not great for offense. I don't think that Taysom. I'm sorry,
Taysom Hill.
Did I say? Man, you got me on tape. Get out of here. Henneke. I don't think Henneke's that big of a downgrade. I did have us. I think I had us winning week 1, but I was very, very torn on it. But these kind of closer games are going to be the games that I think we see the biggest difference in the score wise. I had us on 3 of some super close games. So I'm going to say that we go 9-8 this year and still make the playoffs and lose in the wild card round.
I'm going to say 7-10. I'm going to say without Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think we get a couple games where Heineke is magic and we get some fun plays out of him and some. I feel like the quarterbacks that we have coming up on the schedule. We talked about how brutal it is. We play the Chiefs. We play the Packers. We have a pretty tough schedule ahead. If we lose to the Giants this Thursday night, just stick a fork in the season. I don't even want to watch football anymore. Like 0-2 without our starting quarterback, losing to the Giants, who I think are a terrible football team right now. I'm going to be very disappointed. So if we lose on Thursday night, our Tuesday show next week is going to be very depressing. I'm going to bring us down big time if that happens.
Oh God, don't say that. We don't say that.
Mark, what do you got?
It's really hard to not be over dramatic after the first week.
Guys, next time, we're gonna have one of these shows. Make sure that I know so I can just wear all black and I can just go emo as shit. And
No,
I can be prepared for the funeral that's about to take place.
Got some
Because
FDR in the background.
I obviously wasn't ready for it. I'm hyped. I'm like ready to talk for another 2 hours.
if we lose next week, everyone's in all black. Get the funeral, the casket's ready. But
We should all wear black ties with black shirts and just go full funeral style.
I'm going 9-8. I'm with Chase on that. I'm going 9-8. I think I had him at 13-4 or something crazy before. Yeah.
13-4.
I still think our division is garbage. Even watching Dallas the other night, I don't care. Put me on the cross for that. They stink.
What about
their
the
defense
Eagles,
is
man?
still
They
atrocious.
dominated.
Oh, please! They played the
Falcons
Falcons.
are so bad. Falcons are so bad.
I do think this will be a different conversation when we look at the end of the season and we see the season that Herbert had. I think the Chargers are a good football team.
I told you guys, like outside of us, they made the biggest jump, I think, in talent-wise, especially in the offseason. That offensive line, man, it looks good. It looks really good.
The one thing that really does bother me is the coaching. I think the players are there. I think we have the talent to do things. Scott Turner's usage of Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, that really bothers me this past week. Like that's when was Terry's first catch in the third quarter? How? Logan Thomas's first catch was in the third quarter. Like how? I mean, I said last week, I've said the last couple of weeks, Antonio, it's going to be the Antonio Gibson show. The offense is going to run through him. But how the hell does McLaurin not catch the ball until the third quarter?
I mean, look at the Raiders, dude. Darren Waller had like 20 targets last night. Like that's what you got to force feed your guys sometimes.
Exactly. The first receiver targeted was De'Ami Brown, and I love De'Ami Brown. The hype is behind him, but he got the first two targets. It's got to be Terry. It's got to be Logan all day long. We talked about Scott Turner developing plays. His play programming was better in the preseason games than it was. The play selection in the preseason games was better than in this game. The first drive was atrocious. The first drives in the preseason games was way better. You had the chunk plays down the field. Logan Thomas, you're designing him wide open. Where was that this week?
Well, even worse is you talk about targeting De'Ami Brown. You look and it's targeting De'Ami Brown and who's making the play on him, like Derwin James. Like you're going to target De'Ami Brown with Derwin James wrapped on him versus Terry McLaurin. You're not going to.
I told y'all that's a major concern, by the way, and I do not know that it was the play calling. Like I talked about in the preseason, how Fitzpatrick, like Terry McLaurin was getting open and Fitzpatrick was not looking his way. He didn't see a target until Taylor Heinicke came in the game. And that's when he started seeing, a few targets, not a lot, but he saw more targets obviously than from Fitz. I mean, like Fitz just was not seeing him. Like I don't think it was play calling as much as it was, just the Fitzpatrick not seeing him. Maybe that increases. Hopefully it increases with, Heinicke at quarterback.
That's why, before tonight when we were talking and I was saying the coaching staff, if I'm doing an over exaggeration, fire the staff. These are reasons why I was going nuts. Rivera's inability to call timeouts in the fourth quarter. It's unexplainable. It's terrible.
We sound pretty down for a week one loss where we lost our starting quarterback.
Is this the first time you've gotten out of bed?
I see my voice still isn't the same since before the game. I was screaming like an idiot. But
you will learn about us, Chase. When we lose, we carry the loss for like 5 days.
I used to
do that really bad. I used to do that really bad. And then the Scott Fishbowl took all that for me. So now I just get really depressed when I lose in the Scott Fishbowl.
Man. But 2 nights we got the Giants.
Worse than the Dallas kicker? All right. You guys ready to get out of here?
Yeah, let's wrap it up, gang. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to do a quick roundtable. Tell them where you can find us. I'll start. Ryan, you can find me at WhatGibbsFF on Twitter. Definitely come interact. I love talking football, whether it's fantasy or Washington football, all day, every day. So just hit me up on there. Give me a follow, and would love to interact with you there. Chase?
Oh, huge shout out to Catherine in the chat. She kept it live tonight. And she also let me know that on Facebook, my videos weren't able to be shared to the public again for some reason. I don't know why it stopped doing that. So I had to go fix it up into the show. But yeah, if you saw me up like this, it's because I was trying to figure out the whole thing with Facebook. But anyways, thank you guys for coming in and checking out our Washington football team show, Washington Intervention. You guys can go check out all of our content over there at fantasyintervention.com. That's all fantasy all day. We have multiple different articles coming out. The dose score is killing it right now. It's making things to predict for fantasy football very easy. You guys can go check out my Twitter over there, FF_intervention. And you can go find, Fantasy Intervention on Twitter as well at joinourcircle_. Go check out our YouTube page. Go hit subscribe. You guys have no idea how far a subscription goes on YouTube. YouTube.com/fantasy intervention. Huge shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion on Facebook, of course. You guys always keep the chat busy, at least for our fantasy shows and, a few times for our Washington football team shows. So I appreciate you guys for that. That's going to be it for me tonight.
Mark?
Guys, you can find me on Twitter at Mark Crow.
Love it, man. I didn't go as long as I normally do, so
I know you kept it nice. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Well, seriously, thanks to everyone for tuning in and listening to us. We appreciate it. We'll catch you next week, hopefully with a W after the Giants, and be good. Thanks for listening.